Hi, my name is Denis Golub. I've been an education consultant working with Scion Mastery for the last 10 years. Scion Mastery has been within the education sphere for the last 30 years. So they have a wealth of knowledge of how visas work and how student visas work. And these are the things that we're going to cover in this presentation today. We're going to look at the different types of visas that are available and how we can sort of create a route to get an indefinite leave to remain within the UK. As you might be aware, getting a visa within the UK is quite difficult. There's quite a lot of red tape, should we say, and there's a lot of things that you need to consider. Thankfully, Scion has a lot of experience and will be able to guide you through these little technical issues. There are a vast number of visas which are available which do not lead to an indefinite leave to remain. Some of these visas are standard visas for visitors. So if you're coming just to the UK to visit somebody or just for a tourist trip, then this is the visa that will apply for you. There are short-term study visas. So if you're coming over for English language courses or any other courses, then you might be granted a visa for up to 11 months. There's, of course, the student visas, which are 2 to 3 years visas, depending on how long your course is, and if you're coming to do an undergraduate degree. Parents are also able to get a visa if their children are studying within the UK who are under 12 years old. There are also Tier 5 visas available for special department workers. So anybody who's working within a charity, or if they're working for any sort of religious workers, they would be on a Tier 5 visa, same as seasonal Tier 5. A quick word on student visas. They do not guarantee for you to get an indefinite leave to remain within the UK. They can provide you, of course, with an outstanding education within the UK and most likely lead to employment within the UK, or for you to be able to start your business within the UK. And those routes do have a much clearer path to get an indefinite leave to remain. The reasons why student visas don't lead to an indefinite leave to remain is predominantly because there's a lot of criteria which candidates have to fulfill, such as number of days spent outside the UK or within the UK, as just one example. Graeme Kirk will now talk about some of the student visas that are available. Graeme Kirk has been within the immigration solicitor. He has been an immigration solicitor for the past 43 years. He's a partner within Scion Mastery and worked very closely with him. So I'll pass you over to Graeme.
It is possible to obtain student visas to come to private schools in the UK, colleges and universities, and provided your child receives sponsorship by a British educational institution and you show the means to pay the school fees and their maintenance, there's absolutely no reason why they won't be granted a student visa for the period of their education in the UK. Now, in terms of using the student visa as a route towards what we call indefinite leave to remain in the UK, which is permanent residence, there are really two possibilities. We have a very interesting rule in the UK called the long residence rule, and that states that if you've lived legally in the UK for 10 years, you can potentially qualify for permanent residence. And I have, over the years, I've dealt with a large number of clients where the child, for example, has come to the UK to study at the age of 11 or 12, has gone through private education, has then gone to university and acquired a bachelor's or a master's degree at the age of 21 or 22, after which time they've spent 10 years in the UK. Now, potentially, somebody can qualify for permanent residence under that rule. The one little tricky matter which people often fall foul of is the amount of time that you have to spend in the UK over the 10 years. And our Home Office is not very generous in relation to this, because they basically say that over 10 years you must not have been outside the UK more than 548 days, which on average is just under 55 days a year, which sounds a lot of days, but if a child comes back home for the summer holiday, for example, each year, your 55 days has already gone. It's a great rule, but it does require great care, and it does require somebody to probably spend more time in the UK than in an ideal world they would want to. But it does lead to permanent residence if you can complete the 10 years. But once you have graduated with your bachelor's degree or master's degree, if it's a master's, you are allowed to apply for what is called a graduate visa, which is a 2-year visa entitling you to undertake any work you want to in the UK. Unfortunately, the clock is still not ticking towards permanent residence, but if during the 2-year period you can obtain sponsorship by a British company, or indeed if you decide you want to go into business yourself and you can qualify under one of the business rules, then you can switch status in the UK to that status. You don't have to go back to Azerbaijan and apply for a new visa. It can all be done from within the UK, and then the 5 years towards permanent residence can start. So as I say, the student visa of itself doesn't start the clock going, but it can be a very, very valuable way of getting into the employment or business market in the UK.
So as Graeme mentioned, there are a few paths for what you can do with the student visa. The obvious path is that after the student visa, you then get unemployed. You get a skilled workers visa for the next 5 years, and then that would lead to an indefinite leave to remain. Otherwise, you're also able to, from the student visa, switch to a graduate visa, which is a very common route. So it's after you finish your education within the UK, you then go to university and study university, and then you get employed, which will also lead to an indefinite leave to remain. Or potentially, if you have been a student within the UK for the past 10 years and absent with no more than 548 days. So it's not quite a lot, and this path is a lot harder to achieve, but it is achievable. So some of the routes to get settlement within the UK directly. So one is a new visa, which is the Global Talent Visa. Graeme will talk about this visa in more detail in a minute. And there's the Innovator Founder Visa. This visa is predominantly for people who are starting companies within the UK. This will also be covered. The Skilled Workers Visas. This is a pretty standard visa for once you get employed within the UK. Spouse visa is if you have a spouse living within the UK, you're then able to come along and join them, provided that you have a certain income level as well, provided your partner has a certain income level as well. There's different criteria, but it's achievable. And the long residency, if you've lived in the UK for the past 10 years, as mentioned before, but with less than 548 days outside of the UK. The possible options for a family to move over to the UK will be discussed in a minute.
I want to deal with the possible scenarios where mother and father want to come to the UK, so the whole family wants to come to the UK rather than just a child come as a student. But there are some good options available to families who want to come in and live in the UK. The first option, which sounds somewhat counterintuitive, is what's called the Skilled Worker Visa. That is normally for somebody who comes to take a job in the UK. But what the government has done is they've taken away the limit of previously somebody coming on that route could only own a maximum of 10% of the shares of the company in which they were working. That limit has gone completely. So it is possible for somebody to come to the UK to join a company and actually own 100% of the shares. But there has to be a UK company in place that can sponsor that individual. Now, there may be such a company, and we actually have links with organisations who put potential investors in touch with companies who are looking for investments of normally more than £250,000, £250,000. But equally, we're doing a lot of cases for individuals who, for example, have got friends or family in the UK who are willing to start a company off for them and be the first director, first employee, and after a few months, that company can get what's called a sponsor's license and bring over a key member of the family basically to run that company. The skilled worker route is now probably the most widely used route for somebody wanting to start a business in the UK.
A global talent visa allows for anybody looking to work in the UK who has displayed skills of leadership and has won any kind of eligible awards within certain areas within the UK. So, for example, within academia research, arts and culture, or digital technology, if a candidate has provided has had that kind of experience and can prove that they've had this kind of experience, then they might be eligible for a global talent visa.
We've then got probably an even more restricted one, which is called the Global Talent Visa. If you are recognised as a world leader in your field of arts, science, medicine, engineering, digital technology, that's one of the big ones, or you can show that you're perceived as somebody who is going to become a world leader. And a world leader sounds, really sort of high level. It's not quite as bad as that. Again, we've done a number of successful global talent visas, and again, a little bit like the innovator founder visa, you have to get endorsement, but it's not producing a business plan, it's your CV and letters of reference and evidence of your activities. But if you can get that visa, then that's fantastic, because it gives you complete flexibility to take a job in the UK, establish a business, be self-employed, whatever you like within your field. And the very good thing about both the innovator founder and the global talent visa is that they lead to permanent residence after 3 years, not 5 years. Explained all of the routes for students and families coming to the UK to work or establish businesses. When we're advising a family, at the initial meeting, whether that's in person or on Zoom, we obviously go into detail as to the background. The first question I always actually ask is, in an ideal world, forgetting UK immigration law, what do you actually want to do in the UK? Because what we try to do is to come up with a strategy that is as close to what they want to do. Because if we end up with a strategy that is not what they want to do, it's probably not going to work, even if we get the visas. So that is very, very important. So we would look at the family scenario, what business there is in Azerbaijan, what the possibilities are for what they want to do in the UK, and then we would come up with a recommended strategy.
And finally, I want to touch on the innovator founder visa. This is for somebody looking to start a company within the UK. So somebody working within the technological field or biotechnological field. There is a vast amount of categories in which you can start a business within the UK. So anybody looking to start their own company, they're able to get a visa based on that and whether that company is eligible within the UK. And yeah.
We then have a category called the Innovator Founder Visa, which is a tricky visa to get because you have to, before you can get the visa, you have to be endorsed by what is called an endorsing body in the UK. So you have to put together a very, very detailed business plan, which is presented to one of the 3 endorsing bodies who decide whether they are going to endorse you. And the key points, the business idea has to be innovative. That's tricky for a start. So it's bringing a new product or idea to the UK. It has to be scalable, so they have to be convinced that it's going to build up so it creates some employment. There's no particular level of employment, but it has to be scalable. And ideally it has to be shown to have an international scope as well.
Thank you for listening to the presentation. If you have any other questions, please get in touch with Scion Mastery. They have 30 years of experience within this field. Trust me, we have seen all different kinds of cases and have been able to find a way to help out. So if you're looking for more information, please get in touch. Thank you very much.